The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I will be your host for today's Nonprofit MBA podcast. This is almost our 400th episode. I am co-founder of Financing Solutions, and we are the leading provider of lines of credit to small nonprofits in the United States. We've been doing this for over 12 years and providing lines of credit. And most nonprofits that they are shocked to know that there is a financing company that works specifically with them. And having a line of credit is just kind of a no-brainer. It's a smart decision. I've had one my whole life. My whole business life, and I know how valuable they can be. If you're interested in learning more about the line of credit, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Again, that's nonprofitmbapodcast.com. We also have a sponsor for the Nonprofit MBA podcast. It's Araize. It's spelled A-R-A-I-Z-E. Fast Fund Online, which is cloud-based accounting software specifically designed for nonprofits. I'm on the board of two nonprofits, and I tell one of them, because we're looking into software packages right now, because don't go with QuickBooks. It's not really made for nonprofits, where go with a software accounting package like Araize that is specifically built for nonprofits. Araize can be reached at Araize, ARAIZE.com, or you can call 847-261-9605 and ask for Joe. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Jean, or JPL, Jean Pierre-Louis from Capracare. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about recruiting volunteers and board members for your nonprofit. JPL is an accomplished global health and strategic leader with a passion for improving the quality of healthcare for communities at risk in Haiti and other developing countries. He is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of Capracare, a Haitian-led 501(c) non-governmental community health organization located in Les Cayes, Haiti. Mr. Pierre-Louis is Haitian-born, founded Capracare in 2009 in response to the gross inadequacies of medical, preventative, and mental health services lacking in the greater Haiti area. JPL, welcome to today's Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me.
So how are things going in Haiti? Just to kind of learn a little bit more. How are things there?
Things are very rough right now in Haiti. It's been a really rough ride, literally for the past 10 years. A lot of folks are more familiar with the 2010 Haiti earthquake that happened in primarily the capital of Haiti, which is Port-au-Prince. But since that time, we've had issues around disasters such as cholera outbreak, which killed over 8,000 people. Then you had, of course, Hurricane Sandy that also impacted them. Then you had Hurricane Matthew in 2016. The last few years, it's an island, so it's positioned almost every, you go to periodically bad weather, so hurricanes happen in the month of August. But last year in Les Cayes, we had a devastating 7.2 earthquake that totally devastated the town and the city itself. But that happened on August 14th, but July 7th, literally a little bit over a month, you had the head of state, the president, assassinated. So it's been rough. And of course, we all know worldwide, right? 2020, COVID happened. So you could imagine a country such as Haiti that has had such a major impact on the world. A lot of folks do not know how impactful that Haiti has had on the world in terms of, independence from slavery and so forth. But even the United States, right? Because when Haiti gained its independence from France, that forced France to sell the Louisiana Purchase, which tripled the size of the United States, right? So Haiti has had a big role worldwide and even to the United States itself. But the people themselves, the past 10 years, have been going through it. So we really need some friends to, as we go through bad times, to really come provide some support for us to try to get the people the support that they need to get back on their feet.
Before we even get to today's topic, I want to ask this next question, and then we can kind of get more into the topic. It's something that's on my mind. I'm just curious. So every country has its culture,
Yeah.
right? It has kind of, what they're kind of known for, positives and negatives, right? Like I'm of Polish, Ukrainian descent, and it just seems that I have incredibly strong work ethic. So it's just whether it's true or not. Does it come from my culture? I don't know. It's thought that way, right? Tell me what you think the Haitian culture is like.
It's built on love. It's built on hospitality, and as a result of that, they are passionate about what they do. So a lot of folks, sees Haiti and they hear, oh, it's poverty, it's a country that has a lot of issues. But no, it's a country that actually loves and provide a lot of support. Because remember, when Haiti gained its independence in 1804, the first thing that they did was start to help all of the Caribbean nations and Latin countries in South America also gain their independence. They didn't even ask for much back. So it's a very selfless country, but for some reason it has a tough time getting the same love that it puts out for itself as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I've and interesting when you talk about that. When you see countries that are hospitable,
Mhm.
I was in Kenya this past year, and most people don't know if you're in the United States how much Kenya is. What first, it was fantastic. It was unbelievable. The people were amazing, and how much they cater to vacationers. I think it really showed me that countries that struggle economically,
Mhm.
that have a big tourism industry, how hospitable, how incredibly accommodating they are, and I thought the same thing from people from Jamaica as
Mhm.
well. I like that word love that you said is just so true. I really felt that way. And the people I've met from Haiti, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I felt that way too. The people I meet from Haiti, they're just good people.
So as a result, right, they get taken advantage of, and you find out of these countries that are based on love, that are very hospitable, people who are very business minded. They don't see any of that. They just want to make money. So as a result, those countries don't really negotiate at the same level to try to get back what they also give because they're so willing to help out, willing to
Yeah.
do. And those others who come in about their money and their business, they just take advantage of that. Even us as human beings, right? Sometimes if you are too kind to someone, you're too nice to someone, and if you don't set the boundary, then they push that. And next thing you
Yeah.
know, you not getting your fair end of the stick. So it often happens to these other countries as well. And Haiti is a
Good.
prime example of that.
Yep. Well, good luck. Uh,
We
let's
need
just
it.
jump.
We need it.
Let's jump into today's topic: recruiting volunteers and board members. Now,
Yeah.
you actually presented this topic to me, and tell me why you kind of thought that this was kind of really a good topic.
Well, you know what? For many non-for-profit that are starting out, I mean, Capracare has been in existence for 14 years. When I started this organization, I didn't know anything about non-for-profit. I just had a dream to do something for Haiti out of my love for Haiti and to try to provide support for the people there, which is one of their biggest needs is what? Economic growth, jobs. So I wanted to just create an organization that was going to provide those opportunities. So I choose Capracare based on my training, my experience in public health. But for an organization, for non-for-profit, what I've realized over the years is any non-for-profit that is starting out, the number one thing that they need is money. But when you cannot get money, what's your next best resources? People, volunteers, leadership. And oftentimes folks miss out on those things. So I feel like it's very important for enough of that are starting out to really be able to have infrastructures in place to onboard great leadership, board directors that's going to help to set the mission, the vision for the organization, and then volunteers to help provide support for where they need um, supported, right? For operations to work, for their business to flourish.
Yeah. So give us the first step that you think is critical to recruiting good volunteers.
Desire. You can't do things without first having a desire, right? So find the persons who actually have a desire for the mission or work that your organization is actually planning to do. Find if there's alignment there. Number two thing I would say is they must know what's the core values of your organization and see if there's a match there. Oftentimes we bring people in who just wants to help, but one, they don't have true desire, right? And they don't understand the core values of your organization, or do your core values of the organization align with their core values? So I think those are very important thing that has to happen. And oftentimes you find people, organizations that do not put in place some kind of orientation to begin to onboard that volunteer or to onboard that board member. So therefore, they can understand, okay, what they are getting themselves into. And the other part I would also say is, identify who's qualified, because you have folks who may have the skill sets, but they don't qualify. And what do I mean by qualified? Well, if you are a non-for-profit, you providing social justice and you empowering people, and folks wants to volunteer, are they kind, right? Are they nice? Do their values go along with your organization? But that's qualification. So they may have the skill sets, but they don't qualify for the work that you are bringing in them to do.
Yeah, it probably makes sense to make sure, and I said this in a recent podcast that I did about marketing and fundraising, is that you need to often take a step back and identify in writing your purpose of your nonprofit, the culture of the nonprofits, the goals of the nonprofit. Have that down, because like you're saying, if you're going to bring on volunteers, regardless if it's on the board or just people who are going to help out, you need to be able to articulate what your purpose is, your culture is, and your goals. In a succinct way that's very well thought out. Did you do that with Capracare?
I did with Capracare. I
Capracare,
did.
excuse me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. So those are the very first thing. Obviously, I didn't do them at the very beginning. At the beginning, I'm just trying to put a team together.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do it in the very. Listen,
Yeah.
I think if you've built a couple nonprofits before in the past, I think you can definitely do it. But I think if you haven't done that, if you haven't had that experience, maybe you got to, do your nonprofit for a year. Well, you probably can do it, but then expect that it might change.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is how I view it, right? So at the beginning, like you just trying to put a team together, right? So if you go to the basketball court, it's a 5-on-5. And you call next, right? And you're just trying to get 5 guys to play because you just want to play. Unless you came with your 5, your other 4, and you make the 5, you have your team set. But sometimes when you just shoot in, you just wants to get a team together. So the first 4 guys will raise their hand and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I want to play
Yeah.
with you." You're grabbing them. But after a while, you start to realize, this guy isn't so good. Now you're looking to bring somebody who can do better than him, right? But when you're just trying to start, you're just trying to put together a team. So when I started Capracare, I was just trying to get a team together. Obviously,
Yeah.
I had an idea of who I wanted to be on the team, but you don't always find the right people off the bat. But once you are a year into it, 2 years into it, you must start to know, okay, who do I really want to have in this position, or who do I need to move to put somebody else better, in place. So those things, you have to, as you start to move your ship along, you start to bring in more quality people that aligns with, like I said, the core value of the organization, your purpose, your mission. What do they want to do as well? All of those things.
Do you find that it's hard because, as you know, the executive director is always doing a million things, And so, if you try to do a million different things, you're spread out so thin.
Yes.
The idea is, I know what happens, and that is, as an executive director, you say, okay, I need a board, and so once you get what you feel is your board together, you're moving on to something else, and there's potential for that board, either someone on the board to be a mismatch, or someone gets burnt out because they've been doing it too long.
That's right.
Maybe you don't run good board meetings. People are bored. There's all these things that goes on, and I think there's called ABR,
Okay.
always be recruiting. And it's tough, right? When you are, I guess what I would do, and again, I haven't been in an executive director role. I guess what I would do is delegate the recruiting of the board to somebody on the board who maybe would be the chairman of the board, and say, this is your job. We need 5 people on the board, and that's your job. Your job is to make sure we always have 5 people on the board and try to find the best people you have.
That's right. So I definitely agree with you, Stephen. Always be recruiting. So I definitely love the idea because I'm always recruiting. So as you go through challenges and barriers of your organization every year, you have to look to see where are the weaknesses are, where are the strengths, and where do you see opportunities. So if you're not always in the recruitment mode, what happens when a key person, when life happened to one of your key members, right? You got to have a succession plan. You got to have a backup. So you definitely have to be in a mood of always recruitment. The other part is engagement. So you hit the nail on the head. You said you could have board members who are bored. Yeah, because their desire may no longer be the same as it was 2-3 years ago. So, but if you're not also engaging them in something that is meaningful, then you're not going to be able to keep that board member. You're not going to be able to keep that volunteer as well. So engagement is a must. The ABA strategy is a must. Always be recruiting because life is always happening, and you have to be able to pivot when life happens to keep your organization going. You mentioned
Yeah.
about stretching the executive director to 10. Well, at the beginning, you will have to do everything. You may have to be the person who does the marketing, the person who does the website, the person who does the bookkeeping, right? The person who's always recruiting, who's doing the training. There is a good thing that happens when you do that. You learn, those skills for yourself. But as you start to delegate, you know exactly what you're looking to get out of those things as well. But you cannot do that over a long period of time because you will find that you burn yourself out.
Yeah, we talked about the ABR, always be recruiting, but let's face it, the fact of the matter is let's say you want to have 3 to 5 people on your board, right? And
Yes.
let's say you have 3, right? And you're a little short, but you have the 3, you're working on some other priorities right now. Um, and one of those board members comes to you and says, I need to resign. So now you're down to 2. And
That's right.
2 people don't really mean the board,
No,
right?
especially in New York State, you gotta have at least three.
You got to have 3. Okay, fair enough. So my question to you is, what have you done in the past to be very proactive when you need to bring somebody, a volunteer on board, that you got to be proactive and go out there instead of doing a casual, always be recruiting attitude?
Mhm.
What have you done in the past to be very assertive about finding somebody?
I'm always recruiting, so I'm always networking. And I find that LinkedIn is one place that is very resourceful in terms of finding board members or finding volunteers because it's a platform that is very engaging. You can get a good profile immediately on someone and see what their interest is.
You said boardable.
LinkedIn.
A LinkedIn, gotcha.
LinkedIn.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I use LinkedIn a lot to network with, especially in these days, right, where we're not so. At least for the past 3 years, we haven't been doing a lot of face to face. But I have always used LinkedIn a whole lot to create a network, to meet new people, find out what their interests are, and they find out what my interests are, and see where there's mutual. collaboration opportunities. And that's the other part. Oftentimes we look at things on one side. What can they do for me? But what can you do for them? Even an intern, when you bring an intern on, what can you also offer the intern? So I love the two-way streets model, that we can provide value and that they can provide value. But you don't wait for that to happen when you lose a board member or when you lose a volunteer, especially if you are an organization that is starting out and you're looking to, bring volunteers or board members. You have to constantly be networking. So therefore, you have a large body of folks that if you need to bring someone on for a particular position, and you can go and say, okay, who do I have in my network? That if I do send an e-blast and say, hey, friends, I'm looking to bring someone in for this particular position, who may be of interest? And oftentimes, those folks are not too far away. They're really in your circles, but you have to be proactively doing those things.
Tell me about some mistakes that you've made when you're bringing on volunteers, rather in the people you brought on, or how you went about it.
Well, early on is not having done the tasks. Identify what tasks that they are good at, or what tasks that they actually want to do. And sometimes you may find that you bringing somebody in because they have skills sets in marketing, but for your organization they have no interest in doing marketing. They really want to put together little packages, hygiene kits, and write little nice notes to children that you're giving them to, or folks who you provided them to. So you have to really find out, or at least at the beginning, create a task description. Because if you don't do that, then you might set up yourself for failure.
Gotcha.
So those were some early mistakes that I did. Another part is, you're starting out as an organization and you don't have the funding. So you believe that if you bring the person on, that they may have interest in fundraising, right? Because money is king. You need funds to bring resources. You can't do great things without having money. You could do some good stuff, but you can't do great things. You can't you can't do quality services. You can have great infrastructure if you don't have the funds. So oftentimes when you're recruiting people, they may have no desire in fundraising. So find out where do their desires align. So align their desires with the task that you're actually putting in place. So therefore, you could have better success.
Hmm. Hmm. What else? What other mistakes that you feel like you've made that you learned from?
Conflict resolution.
Oh,
Right? So you've had some folks who they want things one way. So I've learned to be very flexible. I've learned to be able to resolve those things by talking them out early. I've also learned to put in supervision in place a lot more often. What does the supervision do? It helps to provide more communication. So therefore, we can always be on the same page and not assuming that they know what they're doing or they know what I'm doing and that things are going the correctly. So when we have supervision, we are able to say, hey, these are my expectations. I thought this week you'd have done that. I thought by next week you'd have done this. So supervision allows to create a timeline and create expectation to reduce conflicts.
have you had scenarios or a scenario where you thought somebody was capable, could do something, you assumed that they could do it, maybe because they do it for a living or something like that, and they come in and it's a disaster?
Absolutely, because like I said a bit earlier, they didn't have any interest in that. So oftentimes folks will do something that is not their norm, something fun, something different, something challenging. So those are things I've had to put in place. So therefore, things can go correctly. Otherwise, you could set up yourself for failure.
Well, by the way, I'm not naive to this. Let's
Mhm.
say in New York, where you're required to have three people on the board. What happens if it get? What do you do if you get to two? I mean, does the state really care? I mean, or do they really check up on it? What do you typically do?
No, they don't, because things do happen. So that's why you don't. If you know your states allow for three, right? You don't go with three. You go with six. You go with 10.
Oh,
In fact,
gotcha.
there is no limit to how many board members you could have. The issue around that is, are they in the correct position to be doing the work that you know the team wants to do? And you also have to make sure that there is good organization culture as well. A lot of folks sleeps on culture, but culture is big. right? Because you may bring one person in, and that person is a rotten apple, and you had 9 good apples. And you know what happens when you have a rotten apples in the basket? It's going to mess up the other people. And you may
Yeah.
have 9 good folks who've been actively working and doing the work. And then you bring someone in who you thought would have provide some productivity, and they don't. So they actually demoralize the culture or the group flow. So chemistry is big. So those are some things that you definitely have to be mindful and watchful for.
Tell me about scenarios where you've brought on volunteers that were not for the board, that they were
Yes.
for other roles. Tell me a little bit about that.
So you have to pivot, right? So then you realize, oh, you know what, Jean Pierre, I brought you on thinking that you would have been great at strategic planning. And we realize that you really haven't done a great job in that. However, I feel like you are great at engaging, you're great at presenting. So we need you to provide more support around the outreach, the donor engagement, the marketing, making some good phone calls, that kind of thing. So you just have to, as you learn where the skills can best serve the organization, again, you go right back to having a honest dialogue, honest conversation. I lead with honesty. Our organization lead with honesty. It's better to know upfront, like I said, what's your desire? Where do you really want to have an impact? So therefore, we can reduce the conflict of operating on assumptions.
Have you had situations in the past where um, you kind of didn't pay any attention to the volunteers, whether it be on the board or on the uh, people who are doing some legwork,
Mhm.
and they lose interest, and you lose the volunteer. And have you had a strategy in order to make sure that you are engaged with the volunteers?
Absolutely. Right? We call that managing, right?
Oh,
In,
yeah.
in life, whatever you don't manage well, you're going to lose it, right? So if you don't manage your children correctly, they're gonna get in trouble. If you don't manage that new relationship, then you're gonna lose that relationship. If you don't manage your health, then you're gonna lose your health. So if you don't manage your volunteer correctly, if you don't manage your board member correctly, you're going to lose them because they're gonna lose interest. So the best way to resolve that is managing.
Hmm. Now, do you think you do these things well?
I've done them much better over the years.
Yeah.
And because my passion for the way that I do, I have a knack for looking into these things. And it's actually one of my best strengths is recruiting and maintaining and keeping both board members and volunteers. But I do realize, well, when it comes to board members, for non-for-profit, as you notice, board members do not get they do not get paid, right? But they do come in with skill sets to add value to the organization. So I have a good knack for finding the right board members that do understand the core values of Capracare and do understand the mission of Capracare, the purpose of Capracare, what's the vision is looking like, what are we trying to do next 1, 2 to 3 years? Can they do that? And if they can't, then we have an honest conversation. Where do you see your skill set best fit? So I have had to make those adjustments with my board members. And the good thing is when you lead with honesty, then you find the right person. So when you do speak with them, they understand what you are trying to do. At the end of the day, the organization is my baby, right? I am the founder and president and CEO. So I'm looking for to have the best uncles, the best aunts, the best godparents for the organization. But when you lead with honesty, you will find the people who are coming in will say off the bat, yes, I can, or no, I can't. But you also have to be very flexible because life is going to happen. So when life happens, you have to, make those adjustments. So if you lead with honesty, then there'll be great things. Then you'll have folks who will understand as you're making adjustments for the betterment of the organization. And one thing I try to balance in Capital Care is three things. I try to make sure that what they're doing is what they want to do, that is fair to them, it's fair to the organization, but it's also fair to the people that we are serving. So I'm always trying to balance those three. That's my role, to balance those three things out. So whether it's for the staff, it's for the board, or it's for the volunteers, it's for the organization, and it's for the people that we serve. And I want to make sure there's a good balance between those three things. Because anytime that there is a unbalance among those three things, you're going to have trouble. You're going to lose somebody.
Last question. What challenges do you face now going forward in regards to volunteers for your organization?
The biggest challenge is always figure out how do you keep the consistency,
Yeah.
right? Because consistency is key. We didn't get to be 14 years as an organization by not being consistent. So the challenge is always find that sweet spot. I love baseball. I used to play baseball, right? Find that sweet spot. So when you do connect, that you could definitely have the best chance of getting a hit. So
Yeah.
the challenge is finding that consistency in whether it's what the person wants to do or as you pivot to something else. So therefore, there can always be good results. You're not gonna get 100. Listen, you're not gonna get 100. You're not always gonna get it right 100% of the time. But if you do it well and you constantly managing it, you constantly looking for where there is weakness, where there is challenges, but where there's also opportunities for success and growth, then you'll get it right.
Yeah, the excitement comes early on in a nonprofit when you come up with the idea and it's you're building an organization. But after, a number of years, it comes down to X's and O's and executing,
That's
right?
right.
And that's where some people get a little bit less enthusiastic, you know. Now, maybe it's a little bit different in a nonprofit than it is with a business, because with the nonprofit, when you see the your cause, how you can affect it, that must be pretty exciting, right? When you see that you're helping people and making a difference in whatever cause you're involved with, that then maybe the execution is exciting when you're doing that. But there is a transition from the idea to the actual execution of the idea.
That's right.
Did you find that with yourself?
Absolutely. What I find for myself is that I also need to take care of myself because if I don't take care of myself, I can't execute correctly. So as a result, I'm doing a disservice both to a couple of things. I'm doing a disservice to myself, my health. So I'm not gonna be around long enough to take care of my staff, my volunteers, my board, but to take care of the people that we are serving. So doing this work, you definitely have the passion. Otherwise, you're gonna get burned out. Your light's gonna get turned off. And the best way to do that is always to prioritize self-care. So when we first hit the bases to hit the ground to start running, we have to also take time for ourselves, take a break, disconnect for a little bit. So therefore, you could always come back to continue doing this. And right now, I feel like I'm loaded because I've done a good job of doing that. Even like today, right? I woke up this morning, I went and walked my husky, right? So for that 30 minutes of just walking, it's just disconnect. It's just me and my dog, right? So I'm taking it in. But after that, I can get back to the work. Later on, same thing. Go back. Me and my dog, we walking, disconnect. So you have to always fuel yourself. Take that time for yourself. Other than that, you're gonna lose your desire. You're gonna lose your light. Gonna get turned off. You're gonna get burned out, and you're gonna lose that energy, that passion to continue to work.
Well, it's a great podcast. I really enjoy JPL for you for coming on. Um, so I'd like to thank JPL or Jean Pierre Louis from Capracare for coming on today's podcast. If you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. If you like today's podcast, please give us a 5-star review on your podcasting app. The Nonprofit MBA podcast is in the top 5% of all podcasts for the nonprofit category. And it's because of those reviews that's really a key ingredient. It really helps us get the word out. And of course, if you're looking for a line of credit for your nonprofit, you can call us at 862-207-4118 or visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcasts.com. JPL, if someone wants to reach out to you, how would they go about doing that?
They can. You could just Google Capracare. I'm definitely on LinkedIn under Jean Pierre-Louis. You can find me on Instagram, all the major social medias. I'm on there as well. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Capracare is the same way, but you can go to our website, www.capracare.org. That's CAPRACARE, and you can find us.
And it's capracare.com, correct?
Capracare.org.
.org. I'm sorry. Thank
Yes.
you. All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
You got it. Thank you for having me, Stephen. I enjoy this.
So I think the the summary of today is I think you got to have a plan, for volunteers. Have it down on one sheet of paper, how you're going to recruit. Make sure you have your mission, your values, your goals. Make sure that you delegate so that role of getting volunteers. Everything that JPL told us today, I think, is really some really sound advice for someone who has 14 years experience doing it. The last thing, as you all know, if you listen to enough of my podcasts, I always do this. JPL did a great job of saying what he does as well, and that is the first thing is I want to thank you all for doing your best to make the world a better place. You guys are out there every single day. You're making the world a better place. I'm trying to do my part in the small way that I do. But you guys are out there, but you can't do your job if you don't take good care of yourself. And that should be the first priority of every day. So you can't be good to your employees. You can't be good to your cause. You can't be good to your family if you're not good to yourself. And that means taking really good care of yourself, exercise, eating right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you should come first and then you can help everybody else second. So I just want to thank everybody for listening, and please take really good care of yourself.